Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 740 with a review of You Hurt My Feelings. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week in the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you, except for this week, as we are padding the list of films that we have recorded in the can right before we go off on a few little vacations. We are doing a recording of a film that just hit VOD, and that is this film, You Hurt My Feelings, which Stephen caught back when it was actually released in theaters a few weeks back. I jokingly said off air that even though I missed it, I'm sure it'll be on VOD soon. And then lo and behold, the next weekend it was on VOD, and we decided that we would, try to scoop that up and do one last review before we all take off for a few weeks. So, yeah, it's gonna feel weird that like episodes will come out, but we won't have recorded for like an entire month before the next time we sit down.
Well, especially because them coming out means you edited them. So either you are banking a bunch of edits, or during vacation you are going to be sneaking away and editing a podcast. Either way, there's something strange about it.
Well, your vacation starts this week. My vacation starts at the end of next week. So there's still time to at least, even on a cadence, release some of these episodes. But
right.
Yeah, it should be fun. Some of them, may not make it out until after I return from vacation. But either way, when we get back from vacation, we're going to have two huge reviews that we're going to have to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll be Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then Oppenheimer, which I'm extremely excited for.
Exactly. And you're skipping Barbie. We're going to have 3 huge reviews for when we're back.
That's true. I'm not excited for Barbie, but I just, of all the things where I was like, oh shit, these come out while I'm on vacation, Barbie, I could see when I get back. The other ones, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to wait to see these. It's so sad.
I mean, they could be playing in, are we allowed to say where you're going?
Yeah, it's not a secret where I'm going.
They could be playing in Ireland. I feel like they get Oppenheimer.
Yeah, we will probably see Dead Reckoning Part 1 in Ireland. Oppenheimer, like, we are flying back the weekend it comes out, so we're seeing it Monday night after we arrive home, assuming we make all our connecting flights and everything.
Maybe I'll watch I guess nothing is really coming out while I'm in Japan. When does Mission Impossible come out?
The second week of, I don't know exactly. I just know.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, I just know
it'd be
it's
fun to watch one of them in Japan. To this day, I have only seen it's a different but similar series, Bond. I've only seen Skyfall in Tokyo with Japanese dubbing, which was enjoyable. I still liked it. I still remember it being a good movie, but I have never seen it without that context.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've only seen it in that theater with maybe there wasn't Japanese dubbing, maybe there was only Japanese subtitles, and then the like previews beforehand all had like they were Japanese dubbed versions of American movies.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just know that it's the only time I've seen Skyfall was in a packed theater in Tokyo, and it was a fun thing to experience.
Nice. Well, speaking of things that are potentially a fun thing to experience, what about hurting people's feelings, Stephen?
Oh, yeah. Not fun. Now, I would ask you, is it less fun to have your feelings hurt or to know you hurt someone's feelings?
I mean, this film kind of posits both aren't so great.
Yeah. For me, as a people pleaser, I would much rather have my feelings hurt than have to carry the burden of knowing that I hurt someone's feelings. Because then I feel like, how do you come back from that? Like you just know you fucked up.
Yeah. I feel that's fair. I mean, I can bury down my own hurt feelings. I can't bury down someone else's hurt feelings.
Exactly. Or if you did, you would be a monster.
Yeah. If
like,
I did,
I can just talk myself out of having hurt feelings. I feel like it's much easier to do that.
But you can't talk somebody else out of their feelings being hurt.
I've tried. It doesn't work.
Nice. All right. Well, we don't want to get too deep into the subject matter of where this film could take us, so we should probably just get started, Stephen. How about it?
Sure.
We're going to take a listen to the trailer for You Hurt My Feelings and then come back and give everyone a review.
What kind kind of story were you thinking about, Hal?
Something to prison.
Oh, all right. And what about a prison interests you?
Jail?
For sure.
Happy anniversary.
We're so lucky.
Yeah.
So, Elliot tells me you're a writer.
Your last one, it should have done better.
There's lots of new voices. Refugees, cancer, murder, abuse.
I'm an old voice.
You're the best voice.
Maybe if Dad hadn't just been verbally abusive, it would have been a bestseller.
Don't say that.
Your memoir is great. Your new book is great.
How are you?
Feeling a little off my game.
The only reason she makes me a salad is because she wants me to lose weight, which is passive-aggressive.
I want you to be healthy.
Doesn't matter.
Can you shut up and keep talking?
Dawn, you want to intervene here? We can do this at home.
Even Milani looks tired.
I'm aging.
What are you, nuts?
You get Botox.
Well, I just get a little bit right here. You know, I can still move my eyebrows. Watch.
It's so expressive.
Look. Come on, we'll go sneak up on him.
Can you say anything?
No, I can't. It feels too late.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I think I'm gonna throw up.
Okay, wait, God, right here?
No, I don't think I can. I can't.
Going back.
If I did say that, you took it out of context.
Are you gonna gaslight me now? He's been lying to me this whole time.
I wasn't lying. I was encouraging.
That's not true. You were lying to be encouraging.
You know what? As an actor, Mark isn't always great.
So the times when you don't think he's good, what do you say to him?
You were so fantastic.
Really?
Mom, you're always expecting the best from me.
You're welcome.
Just needed to do something meaningful.
What you do is kind of meaningful.
To who?
No one.
This whole world is falling apart, and this is what's consuming you.
Mom, you're not helping.
I love you.
Oh, okay, well, then never mind.
All right, so that was the trailer for You Hurt My Feelings. Reading the description from IMDb, a novelist's long-standing marriage is suddenly upended when she overhears her husband giving honest reaction to her latest book. Stephen Miller, what did you think of You Hurt My Feelings?
So this movie was not really very much on my radar. It just happened to be playing at Alamo shortly after I got back from Cannes, and I wanted a little, like, I don't know, I had been marathoning so many movies. I wanted to remember how it felt to just, like, take my time with one and not feel rushed to do anything. Yeah. So I went downstairs, I watched it, and I had a lovely time with this movie. Like, I think I used this phrase when talking about Elemental, but I thought this movie was kind of wonderful. And it was one that just, it is so small. It is so simple. Like, you were messaging me today about how, like, you saw it, but it isn't clear how much we are going to have to talk about. And I agree with you, because the movie is incredibly simple. The movie is Julia Louis-Dreyfus overhears her husband saying he doesn't like the book that he's been encouraging her about whenever she asks for actual criticism. It leads to thinking about, like, what do we mean when we say we trust each other in a relationship? What are the little white lies you tell each other? And how do you handle knowing that your feelings have been hurt? And, like, that is the whole movie. And what I love about the movie is the same reason it's hard to talk about, which is it doesn't have to be any more than that. It's just like a little bite-sized dose of couples therapy and life therapy. It's kind of a movie about, like, not taking yourself too seriously, about a bunch of people separately recognizing that they might not be great at everything. They might be just okay, maybe even mediocre at a few of the things that they care about, and that, like, that's fine. Like, they don't need to beat themselves up over it. They can just accept that they are not perfect and move on with their lives. And it reminded me of, like, the joy I felt watching Easy when that show was on. Maybe it's still on, but at least season 1 when I was watching it, of just, like, we're going to get a little snapshot of adult living in the 21st century. It isn't going to try to be about any more than that. You're going to get some chuckles. You're going to feel a little warm inside, and then it's going to be over. And I felt very warm watching this movie. I feel like Julia Louis-Dreyfus is just a joy to watch. I really like her starring in something that is like tender as opposed to just sarcastic, which she is great at in every show she ever does. But I don't often get to see the warmer side of her. I think her husband, played by Tobias Menzies, is great in this movie as the kind of like little schlubby guy who is himself a therapist who is maybe not that good at being a therapist. I had not seen Shrinking before I watched this. I watched it after. I don't know how much Shrinking would have informed my viewing of this movie, because some of the dynamics of his therapy scenes are very similar to that show. Yeah. And then just like everyone in their orbit, you know, her sister, played by Michaela Watkins, and her husband, played by Stewie from Succession, Ariane Moayed, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. They're all just kind of separately thinking like, am I happy? Am I good at the thing I've, you know, committed to do in my life? And it's just, I don't know. I just thought it was sweet. It had a little meta element of, I came home right after the movie and I had like just been working on my little can write-up, and I was talking to Joanna about it, and she was like, oh, good job. I'm sure it's going to be great. And I was just like, oh, this is exactly that, you know? Like, I love her, but she doesn't care about my can write-up. That's fine. You know, that's great. She cares about me and she wants to support me. And I thought it was just such a cute, like, little look into how we support each other in lives. Like, just the little things we say to give each other a boost, and what would happen if that exploded and suddenly you, like, put it under a microscope. And then I looked in the mirror and had giant bags under my eyes and felt bad about them. So it just really covered the whole gamut as my significant other, who is looking to become a therapist, talked to me about her day. So maybe this movie was just personal in a lot of ways, but I really, as someone who like aspires to a bunch of creative things that are not my day job, it just like the idea of just accepting that you are just okay and it being fine, and like an act of love for the people in your life to support you. I don't know. I just found it very moving and tender and warm and fuzzy little movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a very nice film. It was kind of interesting because as I was watching it, you know, just at home, you know, that was the convenient way of me watching it. I did feel like it's such a small film that I kind of wish I did see it in theaters, just so I could be in a room of people, where I feel like having the people around you even vibe just a tiny bit with the film could sort of elevate it a little bit to feel not so small. But I think it's, you know, it's your typical film where it's like, this couple is way too perfect for each other and everything. And like, you know, it's obviously I've seen the trailer for it. So I knew where the breakdown was going to start to happen, but it's a film where it's just like a child who is like way too much the perfect child, parents that are way too much the perfect parents. And you're just watching them go through their perfect little life and kind of just like meander and sort of just talk about how like maybe their life hasn't turned out exactly how they expect, or as you were saying, maybe they're not as good as they wish they were at the things that they have dedicated their entire life for. And I think that the film is kind of just posing those questions of whether or not it matters that you are the best or even good enough at the things that you do, but it also is not willing to deal with the ramifications of potentially being in a career where you do kind of need to be pretty good at that job. Like, there, you know, small spoiler gag for this film, but there are parts in this film where the character who is a shrink is mixing up his patients' backstories. And I feel like while it's played for a joke in this film, I feel in real life it wouldn't go over as being that funny. It would be potentially bad. Also, it's not hard to like. I've seen a lot of films with a lot of shrinks that all have a binder or a notepad or something in front of them. It's why is he doing everything from memory? I do not know.
He's not great at it.
Yeah, he's just not great on it. But I do think it is kind of fun to watch a film where it's like literally every single character is dealing with this. Like, have I just been going through the motions on everything, and like I'm really terrible at everything that I do? And it's just like everybody is sort of on that same level and kind of just dealing with that. It kind of even, there was a moment where you talk about, you know, meta-ness of life and watching the film and stuff like that. I had this meta moment where I was watching the film and I was like, you know, it's a nice small movie. And I was like, wait, when the filmmaker was writing this, did they think they were making a big movie with lots to say? Or did they also feel like they were those characters writing this film? that is
I feel like Nicole Holofcener felt like she was one of these characters.
Yeah. And that's not to say that I did not enjoy this film at all. I just mean like I had that in the back of my head. I was like, this feels like
yeah.
It feels like I'm just going to make the small movie that is the concept that I want to think about right now. And I will make it perfectly fine and make all these characters enjoyable and kind of play in this space. But it's like, it's not really striving to be the best relationship film you've ever seen. It's just striving to be this very competent story about these characters that are too, they're not hyper real, but they're like, they're realistic in the notion of who they are, but they're still too perfectly whatever it is they're going for.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I would say because it's so rare to see a quiet movie that doesn't aspire to be about grand giant themes, this one did feel pretty special to me. Like I've never made a movie. I just have to assume it's hard to make one work this way, or else we would see way more of them.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like scrappy indies that you watch that try to have a simple premise that just feel like off.
Yeah.
Somehow. I was remembering a part of the movie that really resonated with me, which maybe is funny. Between this and Past Lives, which we will have released a review of by the time you're listening to this, I'm finding myself gravitating or identifying with the like kind of schlubby husband character in movies. And in this case, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, her husband, they're having one of their many conversations about, she's lost trust in him because he's been telling her the book was good, but he really didn't like it. And she's like, how can I believe anything you say? Why would you lie to me? Why would you do that? You must be laughing at me. And he's saying like, yeah, I didn't really like this one, but also I'm stupid. What the hell do I know? Like, it doesn't matter that I didn't like it. It matters more that I support you and I believe you are good because I believe in you as a person. And I like that just felt so accurate to me about like not even a romantic relationship, like a friendship, a coworker, like any situation where you're like, yeah, I'm wrong all the time. Why does my opinion matter so much?
Yeah.
And I don't know. That was just one of those little life observations that I really liked in this movie.
Yeah, and I think all of those, they play exactly the way they need to play in the moment. I think, this film doesn't feel like it even has a thesis or it's even actually trying to say anything. It's just trying to observe these moments in relationships. Mm-hmm. The closest it gets to sort of a thesis is when the parents are talking to their kid about a similar sort of setup, and it's kind of like all three people trying to understand the context of what conversation was happening previous to this conversation and how it plays into this conversation. Like that was where it was like fun. I was like, all right, I guess this is the thing you really wanted to say, and the rest of it is sort of just premise and setup and everything. So at the end of the day, I came away from it going like, all right, that was pretty cute.
Yep. Yeah, and that's all you need. I do think the theatrical experience gives it an extra boost, because I went out of the theater being like, I just experienced something really nice and warm and like adult, and wise feels like too strong a word, but again, it's something where it's like this person has like lived a life and is just making a movie to be like, hey, life. We all know about it, right? Let's talk about it. And sharing that in a communal way was just really really special, warm and fuzzy feeling for me.
Yeah, it kind of in a way it kind of reminds me of like, when like you go to like a stand-up set, right? And the jokes a person might be doing are not like, oh my God, that's the funniest thing, I'm laughing out loud. But it's like that, and it's kind of like
that's me.
yeah, where it's like oh, I totally get this. This is very accurate, and I like what it's doing, but it doesn't make you go like, ha, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, talk about meta elements. Watching this, knowing you were going to record an episode of your podcast about it, just a good feeling. Like, hey, I'm going to do this thing that we are great at. We're great at it. Everyone knows we're great at it.
Yeah.
Joanna tells me any day we're going to have hundreds of thousands of listeners.
Yeah. Maybe if we were more than verbally abused by each other, this would be the #1 podcast on iTunes.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
On that note, the before this podcast becomes evidence in a trial one day from one of us against the other. Again, I mentioned that I watched Shrinking after watching this movie, which I guess it was a month ago that it came out. Wow, it's been a while. Anyway, so this film opens in couples therapy with David Cross and his real wife, Amber Tamblyn, in this kind of toxic marriage where they clearly resent each other and they're having the same argument over and over and over again. And even just watching them recur over and over, they are not meant to be the character the couples look at each other and go like, that is so us. But I do think they serve a role as the characters that you look at each other and go like, we're better than them, right, honey? Like everyone kind of fills that role where you're kind of looking at a knowing glance and you're like, oh yeah, I know people who are like that. Not me though.
Yeah. I mean,
Zach Sherry is also very funny in his little role as the kind of just like an outcast in the movie who reveals how bad Tobias is at his job.
You mean every time he leaves the session?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I did not think of Shrinking, even though I had watched Shrinking, like quite a bit before, this past weekend when I saw this film. But in general, it wasn't just because it was the shrinking stuff. It was sort of like as he starts to realize that he's potentially not that great at his job and he decides to experiment in air quotes with his techniques, I was definitely like, all right, now you're just trying to get into shrinking territory and I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. Even though that can't possibly be how timing actually works in writing a movie script.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, yeah. It's not that I think they were trying to, like, crib anything from Shrinking. I just mean that, like, the comparisons became more evident in that moment to me than just, like, oh, it's somebody sitting on a couch across from somebody talking about feelings, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Any last thoughts before we dive into verdicts, Stephen?
Only that I wish I had watched this with Joanna. I feel like it would be a kind of lovely couples movie to watch together. Maybe, depending on where you are in your relationship, maybe it could be a movie that is hard to watch, depending on who you are. But I feel like it just has a lot of little wise truths about relationships and romance in a way that I think would be sweet to experience with your significant other.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Stephen, it is time to get to verdicts. If you were going to give this a must-see, recommend with a caveat, wait for rental, pass with a caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
So this is going to sound overblown given how little I had to say about it, but walking out of the theater, this was a must-see for me. I felt like super warm and happy and positive, and I was like, I love this movie, and I don't know anyone else who makes movies like this. Like, moments in Noah Baumbach movies hit similar notes, but his movies tend to be a little bit more big and dramatic. Like, there's just not a lot of people doing this kind of adulthood, personal midlife crisis type of movie, and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, it's very small, so take my must-see with a grain of salt. You definitely don't have to rush out and watch this, but I think if you do, you'll be charmed.
Yeah, but you can rush out and watch it because it's available for everybody at home, because that's where I watched it. Yeah, I thought this film was very cute. I will not elevate it to a must-see, but I'll give it a recommend with a caveat. I walked away from, it was late at night, so I didn't really walk away. I kind of like stumbled away from the couch and then went to sleep. But for me, I was like, yeah, that was cute. And it's kind of like, as soon as it starts, you're like, all right, I know what I know what I'm in for. Like, you could watch this whole film without the inciting incident, and it would be like just as like nice as it is with it. But like the conflict itself doesn't actually like change the trajectory of the characters that much. It's sort of just like you're spending time with these people who are just sort of like feeling it out and sort of thinking about where they are in life. And, you know, much like as you've already said, like the characters in past lives, like wondering like, did I make the right decisions to get to where I am? Did I achieve enough? How am I doing right now? But yeah, It was sweet.
I like it. Movies about how to be supportive when the other person is having an existential crisis. It's a nice genre.
Yeah. If only in life, when you were having an existential crisis, everyone else was also having an existential crisis, and you could all just say it out loud, and then everything's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Life would be so much simpler.
I also, in real life, I don't know if I could get away with just making a joke gift every year as a reference of how bad I am at giving gifts. So some things work better in movies than in real life.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our quick and simple review of You Hurt My Feelings. Hopefully nobody listening, your feelings weren't hurt by the short runtime of this episode. But I don't even know where to go from that. I just messed myself up.
It's okay. You're doing great. Yeah, I think this is the best episode you've ever recorded.
But yeah, Stephen Miller, people want to find you throughout the week. Where can they do that?
People can find me at twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you are enjoying that. And yeah, that's it. Stephen and I, in a few days or a few weeks respectively, are going to hop on planes and be gone for a while. But we will be back in the near future with reviews of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Oppenheimer and Barbie and everything else that's left to come out in the summer.
Now we're going to hop on planes and then dive out of the plane midair to record a review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
I'm going to hop onto the outside of the plane and just hold on for dear life while it's flying.
With an episode whose audio quality is only surpassed by the Call Me By Your Name review we did on the freeway.
Yeah. Man, if only the cabin of my car was as quiet as the cabin of my studio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you soon for you, a little bit longer for us. Bye.
Bye.